and wait.
Respect! 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 Respect!
Oh, I think you know what this show's gonna be about. Welcome back to Toronto Till I Die, the Toronto FC fan show. I'm Mike Newell, and yes, it is official. We know most likely that Toronto FC will go trophyless for a fourth consecutive season, and everybody just got really sad hearing that. But it is a reality. It's something we'll have to stare down, and we'll talk about a lot today. I think there's a lot of TFC fan soul searching after a cup loss. We will talk about, of course, the game last night, the V's Cup loss to the Vancouver Whitecaps in the final. We'll tee up this weekend against Chicago, and what seemingly is a ever slipping playoff hopes. And we'll try not to make you all depressed before the end of the season. But I mean, this football team can sometimes do that to you anyway. Bringing in my co-host, as always, Jeffrey P. Nesker. Jeff, how we doing post V Cup loss day?
I mean, we're not Oakland A's fans, so there's that.
Getting close.
We're getting close. We're getting a lot closer than I'd like to admit. What a day to be a Oakland A's fan, or a Ricky Henderson fan. I mean, when I saw you at the Jays game earlier, the hot dog game, I was telling you about how MLB The Show 24 is a free game on PS Plus, and I put Ricky Henderson on my team, and stealing bases with Ricky Henderson will never not be fun in any milieu, including the digital milieu. But his comment today, I don't care about Oakland, I already have enough money, really, really effing sucked. Like, really sucks.
It's very Ricky Henderson, though. If you know Ricky
the worst
Henderson,
thing I've ever heard.
That is very Ricky Henderson. Like, for the baseball, for the people who are not baseball people, Ricky Henderson, great Hall of Fame player, the greatest stolen base
got
artist
a mouth
of all time
on him,
in baseball. But he's always had a mouth, right? I mean, this is a man that constantly talks about himself in the third person. So, his comments not surprising whatsoever.
Am I dreaming, or did he play for the Jays for like half a second?
Yeah, in '93 we traded for him at the trade deadline.
There we
and
go.
He played, and got a World Series ring in '93, and then he didn't come back in '94.
Oh yeah. There we go. Okay, so I wasn't dreaming.
But you all didn't come for the baseball, though. Hell, maybe that gives me some
you
solace.
didn't come.
It won't. It won't. Let's be real. All right, I work with a team.
Yep.
No. But let's talk about. Let's back it up. Let's talk about this game. 0-0 draw after 90. TFC lose on penalties. I mean, it's a weird one because maybe I'm in the minority on this. I don't know, but I actually thought Toronto FC played one of its better games this season. Like, if you look at the structure of the team, the lineup, there's probably your best 11 all year, right? Like, in terms of all your big guns are healthy, or relatively healthy, I guess. The start was fantastic. I thought that, from a possession perspective, they were patient, which is rare with this team. They're not usually very patient in possession. They'll try to force things, and they did. Don't worry, this is TFC.
Yeah.
It eventually did happen.
Yeah.
But for the first sort of 10 minutes, they really probably should have gone up a goal. I thought they were vastly the better team. I was actually quite shocked at the way Vancouver came out. I thought Vancouver would be a lot more aggressive. I thought they would try to hit TFC more on the counter, which eventually, again, they did. As sort of they settled into the game. But for the first 10 minutes, like, I thought TFC should have scored. Now, here's the thing. I think we all know this now. We've talked about it quite a bit. We don't have players who allow you to break down teams that sit in 2 low blocks, 3 low blocks, really, because Brian White was essentially a holding midfielder. That's how deep he was playing. So from that perspective, a lot of back and forth, trying to find stuff on the wings.
That's great. All Swedish,
absolutely.
no finish. Nice winter. It's nice. I like
right.
that.
Like they're just going back and forth. They're trying. I mean, it's clear they're trying to get the ball to Federico Bernardeschi as many times as possible. And Vancouver know exactly what they need to do. They need to stack 2 players, one on him, one at the top of the 18, to not allow him to cut in on the left. And that point, you can kind of triple team him with an extra center back that pushes up. And things just die, right? Things just die because you clog that middle of the space, and no one can make forward runs. No one is making off the shoulder runs. You're just a lot of the guys just sit and kind of watch. And I kind of noticed that about DeAndre Kerr. It wasn't like, when Federico Bernardeschi started to cut in on the left, he wasn't trying to run in behind.
No, he was not.
So you just don't have any way to be dynamic in those type of positions. And Vancouver, although they didn't play well defensively, were pretty comfortable most of the night, right? Like,
agreed.
They get one shot out of Federico I think by the 6th minute. Bomer has to make a save. But outside of that, I don't think Vancouver really were too bothered by what TFC were doing. Everything was kind of in front of them. So, just in terms of your view on this, Jeff, I
have some notes that I made over your run there. Yeah.
Yeah, but just in terms of your thoughts on this, because you watched those first minutes, it looked promising, and then it kind of fizzled out and became nothing, right?
I mean, it's the story of TFC. It's the story of TFC, right? I mean, when you have no real tactical nous, you try and blunt force when your legs are the freshest, and it's not exclusive to TFC. I mean, you said the team was patient, and it's difficult for me to agree with you because I'm an Arsenal fan, and that team is patient. That team is patient. And forget about the quality and the tactics. Yeah. There's a patience that Arsenal has sort of hard won over the Mikel Arteta years, where they trust the system. They're so patient, and Arsenal is still a team that love to get ahead early, right? They love to pressure in those first 10, 15 minutes, which is why I don't think it's a TFC thing. And Arsenal suffer as mightily as TFC does when they burn themselves out over those first 15 minutes without coming away with the lead-off goal. Your other comment was you thought that was probably our best 11. I take issue with Davy Flores not starting. I think he should have started over Longstaff. My boy Cuejo gets the start 10 times out of 10 if I'm the gaffer. But yeah. I had an issue with Davy not getting the start. And then the other thing was, I don't know if you went into Burness slander, and I don't think we should. He was certainly less effective in the second half, but oh my God, he almost, that move where he went through 5 Vancouver defenders in the center of the park, and it was the 6th one that dispossessed him, unfortunately, was kind of the story of the game. I mean, he was possessed. It was just one move too many all the time. I'm thinking about that cross near the end of the 90 where he sort of gave up on the cross and then just it was like a floater that anybody could do.
Well, I get what he was trying to do.
Volleyball float.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get what he's trying to do there. Obviously he's trying to hit somebody in the back post. I hate to, because I'm not, this is no shade on Burnett. I know why he's doing what he's doing. There is a bit of hero ball in there, and we'll get to the penalty in a moment. In terms of should he be taking them, whatever. But just dissecting TFC's performance, dissecting the game plan. It was clear that the game plan was to try to be on the front foot, be aggressive, try to win second balls, which his team is not very good at doing. Not at all, and it kind of didn't work out the way they thought it would. I think they thought Vancouver would press a lot harder at the beginning. I think they were waiting for a little bit more of the physical confrontation in the midfield. I think what they ended up getting was a Vancouver team that was going to be disciplined, was going to allow them, like you said, to kind of burn themselves
All
out
the possession.
in the first,
100%.
the first 10, 15
Yeah.
minutes, survive the emotional wave that TFC usually throw in a lot of games, as you rightly mentioned earlier. And then kind of wait for them to become impatient and pick them off and set up little traps. And actually, Jim Brennan, I don't always love One Soccer's commentary in terms of how they comment on the game, but I think Jim Brennan was right. Like, I think Vancouver sucked them later as the half goes on, sucks them into little traps, sets them up, to get the ball to the right player. And I think one of the players they attacked was Matty Longstaff. Like, Matty Longstaff can be really clean on the ball, but he also does make a lot of mistakes with the ball. Like, he
under super pressure, 100%.
Yeah, you can put him under pressure and he will make mistakes with the ball. And I think that Vancouver identified that as a potential weak spot. I think
it's so easy to game plan against this team. I mean, that's the unspoken truth here, is that you don't need to be a Mensa member. You don't need to have read inverting the pyramid front to back, on a yearly basis to game plan against this team. You don't even need a whole lot of tape to game plan against this team, right? Like, it's just
you know how they're
so
going to line up
predictable,
every week,
right? Every single week, what their paths to attack, and I'm putting those air quotes in because we don't have one, but the paths to attack are going to be, and you just know how to undo them. And I'm gonna sort of put a pin in this because I know we're gonna talk about Lorenzo. I mean, there's a reason why that's our background today. But this theory of this sort of 4D chess that Herdman was playing with Lorenzo, wherein he was sort of out of the play, so that Vancouver would forget he was there, and magically he'd be allowed to sort of drift into his favorite position and score one of his Lorenzo / bangers. That's not 4D chess. That's insanity. Like this is a professional soccer league. You think that any team on the planet, including in MLS, in a cup final is going to ignore Lorenzo Insigne? I wish I could ignore Lorenzo Insigne, but I don't think other teams are going to ignore him, regardless of his face on the pitch. It's a microcosm. I guess I'm not putting a pin in it because I'm giving you my take on it right now, but it's a microcosm for our attitude towards Lorenzo. Like, if only he had this, or if only he had that. He doesn't suck on the field. He's not petulant out there. It's 4D chess. Right? Like, what does this remind you of? Drumpf, but no, he just sucks out there, and he had no, like, even if that was the plan, it's a shitty plan. It's a shitty plan. So, I kind of lost my train of thought there because I wanted to bring up one Turt's comment, which is, I thought we played through the press pretty well, and this is a couple minutes ago. We played through it because Vancouver wasn't pressing. I don't think they were really pressing. Certainly not in their low block. They were giving us the illusion of pressing because they had the Coles notes for the game before it even started. Like, they knew where to hit us.
I would say they would press a little bit more as the first half progressed. Like, I think once they got a little bit of a foothold in the game, they were pressing a little higher up the pitch.
Sure, and after the penalty, when they felt like they got punched in the mouth, I think they got a little bit more emotionally invested in the game.
I think like they got a foothold in the game, and I actually can point out a specific moment where I thought, ooh, yeah, I think they're going to get a foothold in the game. It was, I can't remember what minute it was. It's in the first half, and Shane O'Neill, who now I'm starting to agree with Michael Singh's assessment of needing a center back who's a little bit better at carrying those with ball to feet and being able to play.
He's got no techers.
With Frederick.
Zero.
Look, I think he's not bad for what he is, which is a guy who probably should not be starting the majority of games for you, right? But he gets the ball in the first half. I think this is probably maybe within the first 20 minutes of the game. Somebody correct me because probably somebody has this queued up. But TFC have possession. They're playing through the back, and there's no real hard Vancouver pressure coming. And realistically, the first you could see, I think Kevin Long had it. The first option was cut off. The second option was cut off. They go over to Shane O'Neill. Option to Federico Bernardeschi's cut off. And normally most teams would just recycle the ball, go back to your center backs, recycle the ball.
He calls an
try to find
audible
opening.
and runs
move.
it like he QB run. Yeah, exactly.
And instead of doing that, Shane O'Neill tries to hit a 60-yard diagonal to the other wing to try to hit Richie Larea, a ball that is never going to make it. And right then and there, it's picked off by Vancouver, and away they went. And at that point, I don't think TFC got their foot back on the ball for another like 5 minutes. And at that point, Vancouver probably could have scored a goal, maybe two. And it's just because
I got to really, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, it's just that that's what this team is right now. It's a team that teams are more than happy to give them possession of the ball as long as they can figure out how to slow down Federico Bernardeschi. You can kind of try to manage Lorenzo Insigne when he's playing. And then you kind of just say, okay, someone else beat us. Someone else has got to find a moment of magic to beat us. And this team does not have anyone else really that can provide that moment of magic.
10 times out of 10, you think Shane O'Neill doesn't make that pass?
I think, well, okay, I don't know if it's 10 times out of 10, but what I would say is that at that moment, having not having patience. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
Not having the patience to just recycle the ball back to Kevin Long and try to find another route through the press. And this press was a light again. I wouldn't say it was a heavy press.
Yeah. It was
you lose the ball, and it's like, again, this is like, I don't want to say it's schoolyard stuff, but like hitting 60-yard diagonals while the team is sitting in a defensive block and have most of your options cut off. Not the wisest move, right? And it just gives the ball away, and away go Vancouver.
On knee jerk, I'd rather that 10 times out of 10. I'd rather you try for that diagonal than recycle the ball endless back passes
there are
to
moments
oblivion.
for it. There are moments for it, and that was not the moment for it.
And it raises an interesting question, and I'm sorry, the wheels are working as I'm speaking, so this might be complete gibberish, but it's like, is it a quality issue? Like, does this team, I think you said it, this team needs someone that isn't Shane O'Neill that can do it 5 times out of 10, because I'd rather have that when under pressure. I'd rather any player at any time tries the obscene diagonal ball to unlock defenses. I mean, it's a good idea to go to Richie cross field like that, but if it's not in his wheelhouse, then it is a quality issue, and we're doomed to just keep recycling the ball until the perfect opportunity comes by, which we know never happens. So
I see. That's where I don't agree. I think well, for this current team, you're probably right, but once you start to, whenever this happens, that's a whole other podcast that we'll probably have in the off season. But once you start to hopefully get some pieces that can be a little bit more dynamic in between those lines to be able to cause issues, then that would be insane. Like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't give
Victor Vasquez makes
the ball
that pass 100% of the time.
Yeah, right. Well, no. This is just, don't make that pass. There's no need to make that pass, right? Like, you would find an option that can break the lines in between and come and receive the ball and turn and make something happen, right? And progress.
That's fair, as opposed to
you just don't have that right now. Like Alonso Cuejo's a nice player that he can kind of do that at moments, and I do take exception a little bit to Boomsline's comment here. I thought Alonso Cuejo was actually pretty decent in terms of being able to progress the ball. Again, I think he's still our best.
In the first 10-15 minutes, I thought he was electric. Absolutely electric.
I just think he's our best progressive midfielder. I've said this before on the show. But he's not that kind of guy. Like, he's not the guy. He's not a Pozuelo. He's not he's not a guy who's going to be able to get the ball and just turn and be able to quickly make something happen. And the few times in the first half that Vancouver got forward off these turnovers and were hitting in transition, like, there was a play between, I think it was Gold Adekube, and they were trying to, I think, Fafa Pico, where
who was everywhere. Fafa was everywhere.
Yeah, like, it was silky one-touch football. It was literally Gold touch over the top of, I think it would have been Long or Petretta, and then literally Adekube one-touch cross in. The only thing is the final ball wasn't great, and Sean Johnson was able to gobble it up, right? TFC can't do that. Like, TFC have no ability to do that at this moment, and that's the difference, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Pour one out for Fafa Picault. I think he deserved quite a bit more calls going his way than he got, but
Yeah, that was
I'm not a
that was
Caps
not
fan,
even
so
ref
who
game.
cares? Yeah.
Well,
Who cares?
okay.
And,
I'll pull that back. I'll actually pull that comment back.
Mhm.
I thought that I did like that the referee let a little bit of the physical stuff go. I do
Sure.
think we got lucky. I think we
100%.
should have been called for a penalty on that Fede Fafa incident. I think there was a push.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
But look, it doesn't get called. There's no VAR. But I think overall, I get it. Like Vancouver fans are not happy with the refereeing. I think we're a little bit more happy. I think it was a little bit more on our side from that perspective.
Absolutely.
But
Totally.
I do want to
100%.
talk about something positive in terms of TFC, and I thought it was the play of Richie Larea. I thought
just
Richie,
about to go there.
especially in that first half, started to look like Richie Larea again. Right, the guy who
100%.
get the ball and drive and make things happen from that perspective. And obviously, he does what he does best. He won a penalty, right? And it was a stone cold penalty off a move he's made 100 times.
100 times.
100
times.
times.
We know it so well.
You know
Yeah,
it's going to
yeah.
happen, right? And there's very few defenders in this league that can actually do anything about it.
That aren't going to
and-
take the bait. Exactly.
Exactly.
100%.
And
Yeah.
it was a
Yeah.
really great move to get around, I think it was Laborda, who then yanks him down by the collarbone. Like it was the most obvious penalty. And at that point, look, TFC were playing well at that point. And you think, okay, you bury this penalty and you're in a good spot. Like you're in a pretty good spot. I think it's about the 30th minute or so. Like you're in a good spot. You're playing well.
You're in a great spot.
Yeah, you're up 1-0. Okay, probably Vancouver's going to put a little more foot on the gas a little bit more at that point, being down 1-0 at home. But you're bending and you're not breaking.
Mm-hmm.
But then the penalty. And we got to talk
Yep.
about it. Look,
Where do you want to start?
there's a lot of valid criticism out there saying like, why is Fede taking this? He's missed he's missed all 4 this year, right? Like I think that was his 4th
He's
miss.
Martin Bailey, 60 something % for spot
Yeah,
kicks,
as his
spotters.
TFC career, but
Yeah.
I think he's
Yeah.
missed them all this year, or he's maybe made only 1.
It's bad, and considering the last, Lorenzo he had a brace in penalty kicks recently in this season. It doesn't make any damn sense. I saw him go up to take that spot kick, and I was like, "What is going on?"
I get that. I think it somewhat makes sense. Like look, Lorenzo
let's
Insigne
go.
is clearly hurt. Like he's clearly actually carrying a legit
I was
knock.
expecting that. Yeah, I think he's 100% playing hurt. 100%.
So maybe that factors into it a little bit. And let's be honest, like, I mean, look, we ended up seeing Oso take a really good penalty in the shootout.
Oh no! If Oso had stepped up, I think I would have had a
Everybody
heart
would have
attack.
had a heart
Yeah.
attack, right? So like,
Yeah.
who else is really going to step up and take that penalty?
Church is coming in and saying, "Listen, I mean, it's hindsight is 2020, but the way Osu took his pen, maybe we should look at him going forward if he's on the pitch. It's not a bad
but he
shout.
wasn't on the pitch at that point last night.
No,
Right? We started DeAndre.
but
Burke,
I mean, like DeAndre, let the striker that's on the field, who's got presumably softer feet than our right wing back, have a shot. And I didn't even like, I don't know if I remember, but was there any argument? Like, was there anybody else that stepped up and grabbed the
No.
ball, or like,
No.
And,
But
did Berna strong arm it, or like,
well, yeah,
was it
basically,
decided?
right? Like a big boy on campus, like and
I'm
look,
gonna take it.
Yeah, right. Like that's again, that's kind of the state of this team.
So
right now.
that's a failure of on-field leadership for Jonathan Osorio for not saying sorry, buddy.
Maybe,
like,
but right now, maybe Burra is the designated penalty taker, right? Like,
Nathan, let Sean Johnson take the pens. I agree. I agree. Why not? Why not?
Yeah. Well, I
know?
mean, he just picked it up and he took it, and no one was gonna who's gonna say boo,
that
right?
that
Other
is
than
that
Lorenzo.
is such an admonishment of this club from top to bottom, from captain to role player to the bench. You've got the opportunity to put one away with a penalty kick in a cup final, and everybody's blasé about it. A guy picks it up with at
But it's not
best,
just some guy.
63%. Well, it is just some guy.
Well,
He's got a
Lorenzo technically has a
63%.
worse penalty percentage overall. If you're going to go on that logic, right?
then it's all shit. I mean, let's be honest. That's what I mean. Like, then just let the wind take it. Like, let Bitchy the Hawk take.
Yeah, and I know Church saying that it might have been predetermined or whatever. Look, John Herdman had sort of a similar problem with the national team between whether Laren or David would take penalties.
Yep.
And never really answered the question outright when asked about it. And it sounds like he's a manager who kind of lets the players figure it out on the pitch, which I am not a fan of. I think you should have
I'm not a fan of it either.
Penalty taker.
100%.
But I think that's what they do. I think they allow the players on the pitch to decide who takes the penalty. And in this case, big man on campus took the ball and said, I'm going to do it. And look, the penalty was not great. It was savable. I don't really know why he tries to open up the body and go far post. I think he's much better if he had just gone near post, because I think he just gets more whip on it that way. But whatever,
he might as well have sent his game plan to Bowman. Like he telegraphed it completely.
Yeah, 100%. You know? Like he opened up his body. 100%. It was clear he was gonna.
It was clear. It was clear.
Which is weird because I've seen him take penalties in like training and stuff, and he's actually pretty good at disguising that, like opening up his hits and then coming near post. So I was really surprised that he actually went. My concern was like, oh, Bomer scouted him and he knows he's going to probably come near post and try to go high. But no, he opened up his body and tried to go far post and tried to outthink him. And
this seems to be a theme of 4D chess and galaxy braining. Like, we don't pay you to think. I know that that's stupid, but like, just shoot the ball. Just shoot the damn ball. Like if you get Vancouver had drone footage. If you get the opportunity to do your PK and you're most successful going near post, just effing hoof it. You know, at the end of the day, I'd rather it get saved when there's some passion and there's some propulsion to it than whatever the hell that was. That was like as close as possible to trying a Panenka. Right, like the complete ridiculousness that happens when you fail at.
Probably would have been more successful if he just went with a Panenka.
I'm not saying no to that either.
Yeah, but anyway, he misses, and like really, you know, after that, Vancouver kind of get their win in their. That was it, obviously, right? Like that was the chance. That was the game. That was the game, really, in the end of the day, and from there, you know, look, I still think TFC played relatively well over the 90, but
I take it back. I think that the 5 minutes before the 90, TFC decided to try throwing stuff at the wall, which I appreciated, and it wasn't pretty, but I appreciated that they were going for it because it really did feel like,
well, they knew they had to win it in the 90. Like I think John Herdman realized that we have to win this in the 90 because penalties are just not our friend, right? That's not it, right? So, again, if you look at the stats, again, it's TFC more shots on target. Vancouver only had 2 shots on target. We had 65% of the ball. We had way more corners. Right, like we had Vancouver draw more fouls on us. Like in everything you look at statistically here says TFC should have won this game, and yet
now it felt to me, and I tweeted this out, that they were playing for kicks at a certain point. But could that just be my malaise? Do you agree with that?
I think that's a little bit of malaise. I think they were trying to win it in 90. I really do. And you don't look, say what you want about Lorenzo Insigne. You are slightly better with him on the pitch than off, because I think once he comes off, Vancouver now know that they don't have to spend as much time worrying about, that right flank. They don't have to, that left flank, excuse me. They don't have to worry about it as much. Like Rich, you got to keep an eye on Richie, but aside from that, you should be okay. And they are able to load up a little bit more on Bernadeschi, and that's why he becomes less effective, right? And honestly, just because of that, some of the quality drops a little bit in terms of your position. I think you lose a little bit of the ability to control the game a bit. I mean, you bring in Kosi. Again, Kosi's had a I won't call it a breakout year, but I think a year where he could be a piece on this team. I don't know if you're a piece that you rely on game in,
cover
game
himself
out.
in glory last night, that's for sure.
No, I mean the penalty's the penalty, and we'll
Well, I'm
talk
not even
about
talking about
pen-
the penalty. I'm
Well,
talking about his performance on the
well,
field. I
fair enough.
thought,
Yeah. Like
yeah,
I think
yeah.
Kosi is what Kosi is, kind of
Mhm.
right now, and like I don't think you want to rely him on these high leverage situations. I think you want to bring him in when he can be sort of a piece of what you're trying to do.
Mhm.
Um, but once you just be again based on the quality of this team right now and what you have at your disposal, you don't really have guys that come off the bench and make massive differences in the game. Like you have
You
guys
don't
who
have.
can kind of be like for like, and a lot of those substitutions were like for like. But I don't
Mhm.
think you have anything off the bench that really goes, okay, that person can come in and really change the game. Like,
Sure.
we keep saying it all the time, but as what Jacob Schaffelberg was when he left TFC is not the same as he is now. He's gained in confidence. He's a much better player than he
Sure.
was when he was here. But if he came off the bench, you're like, okay, well, we know, at least we know he's going to be able to run at somebody. We know he's
Yeah.
going to be
Yeah.
able to put somebody under pressure if he can get the ball out to the wing. You don't have anybody like that right now at TFC.
Nope. No.
So it becomes, like you said, predictable and easy to defend. And that last 30 minutes, those last 30 minutes tracked. Like this was a bad cup final. All right.
Yeah.
Let's just put this out
Yeah.
there. 12,500 people in the stands, probably less. A lot of them comped. Like
Mhm.
this was a bad cup final. Like it just was not it was not that entertaining. I know a couple of scuffles happened, and that happens in a game. I just thought
Mhm.
this was, for a national cup final against two teams that should have a little bit of a stick against each other. I just thought this felt like a random Wednesday night MLS fixture
It sure did.
with a team
It
that
sure did.
traveled across
I
country.
and I don't trust our opinion because we are Malays FC, right? Like when we saw each other early in the week, we were are we going to win? Nope. So like, well, but I do think as objective as we can be, it was a bit of a snooze fest. My favorite part about it was just watching Adekumbe and Richie Larea not be friends
at it.
because they're so yeah, just absolutely savage each other. I thought that was fantastic. Um, yeah, it was a garbage performance on top of sort of garbage fanfare. It was like a wet fart, that game, essentially.
Yeah, well, I
You
mean, it's
know?
the marketing. I mean, everybody's talked about the marketing around the game and stuff like that. Like,
Mm.
look, it hurts when this game is only on one soccer, right? In the end of the day, and again, this is somebody this comes from somebody who does support one soccer, like in a sense that like
Mm.
you may not love everything they do, but they're showing the games. They're
It's
committing
not,
to
but
putting
it's not
broadcast
as
cameras out there. But
mm-hmm. It's
when it's
not as
just
simple as
that,
just putting it on CBC. Like you got to put
no,
it on CBC and you've got to advertise it, right? Like it's like if you put it on CBC, it's gonna get the same amount of eyeballs if you do nothing but just simulcast it, right? Like maybe you get 4 or 5 people here and there that run across it, if they've still got a remote control. I mean, what are we in 1997? Like the media doesn't work that way anymore. But like, you know, I come from film, and so the reason that so many English Canadian films die on the vine is because yeah, you can spend $1 million on the budget, but if you don't double that with the marketing spend, no one's going to see it, and that's just the reality of the situation. So I do take umbrage with people that are like, well, let's put it on CBC and magically it's going to fix it. No, you need to double. You need to find money somewhere to advertise it, and whether that's from One Soccer or whether it's from the CBC or whether it's from the MLS Canadian men's national team kitty fund for for advertising and Jesse Marsh or whatever the hell it is. It is what it is, but it's inarguable that cup final felt like trash, and
it felt like it didn't matter.
it and it
Like
mattered
it mattered
so
to
much.
us, like the sickos who stayed up and watched it. It matters, obviously, but I think I like honestly, if you just kind of took a regular, even a fan, like somebody who's a fan, but isn't as in tune, and said, "Hey, watch this game," and at the end could say, "Hey, did you know that was a cup final?" They'd be like, "What are you talking about? Like
Yeah.
that was a cup final?" That's kind of what it felt like. And look, it goes
It's
0-0.
yeah.
One team plays all right, but it's not that great attacking. The other team just had an off game from the Whitecaps, and then you go straight to penalties. which I am not a fan of. I don't like this idea that you go straight
especially
to penalties.
in a cup final. That's so
Yeah,
Mickey Mouse.
like I mean, exactly. Like if you watch the U.S. Open Cup final, you know, like they had extra time. There was drama. LAFC scored. Like, you know, there's a bit of drama there when you have extra time,
Yeah,
right? You
100%.
most likely actually will find a goal. But hey, that's the rules. It goes to penalties, and the penalty lineup, as you know, Owusu comes up, right, takes his penalty, does really well with it. Really good penalty, as Turks kind of mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
Loved it.
The minute I saw Kosi step up to take, like, or not even Kosi,
I knew it.
Well, no, when I saw Matty Longstaff take the second one, I'm like, this is not going to end well. Like you just kind of knew. You kind of just knew.
You see, with Matty, and it's funny because I have a note here, and it's totally unrelated, but with Matty, you know, when he shoots with power, he's got some venom in his shot. So I thought he had a chance. And it was just a few, you know, people are remembering it like it was Michael Bradley, you know, sending it into orbit, but it wasn't. Like it hit the crossbar. Like he smashed that bar. And I don't want to slag Matty because he looked like the only person that cared. Like those were real tears at the end of the game, you know, and whether that was just embarrassment over that penalty miss, you know, personal embarrassment, or it was him kind of shouldering the burden for the team. You can't front on that. So I thought Matty gave it his level best, you know, when compared against, you know, the laziness that was that Berna penalty. Like I'm just gonna pass it into the net, like the laissez-fairness. I thought it was a lot better. But getting to Kosi, you know, we were blessed with that close up on his face when he stepped to the circle, and I knew instantly he wasn't making that shot. Instantly, there was zero confidence on his face.
Yeah. I saw it was going to be Kosi. I knew even before seeing his face. I'm like, this ain't it. Like, and again, I don't want to be like here slagging players, but like at the end of the day, it's just like one of those things where because of the quality piece that we have sort of threaded throughout our conversation in this game. He has to take the third penalty, right? Like he has to take the third penalty. Lorenzo's out. You know, other guys that you probably would maybe look at that third are out, right? You probably have
and no one's raising their hands.
Well,
and
and that's part of it, right? You can't really slag Kosi that hard because like he put his hand up, like, you know, Matty put his hand up to take it. Yep. And in the end of the day, you know, Kosi hit a shot that was kind of predictable. And it's sad, right? Because Sean Johnson actually made a really good stop on Vancouver's second penalty. That, you know, right there, you hit that one, and the momentum is there. But once that Matty Longstaff one was missed, I'm like, that's it. That was a chance.
I mean, once you went to penalties, I was like, that's it. So it was like it was a very measured bit of excitement when Sean made that save, because I was like, yeah, we're still effing losing this. Like, there's, you know, it's not.
I had a moment like, okay, if you can bury the next one, then you might have something here. But I mean, and look, like let's be real here. Bulmer had a fantastic game. Like he really played amazing. I thought he had a really good game.
I think it's somewhere in between
like
the hyperbole that, you know, he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and he's a League One keeper, you know, with cement bricks for feet. I think that the truth is somewhere in between there, but I don't think he stood on his head. I think
he had a pretty good game. I think him getting to George Gross might be a little much.
Yeah. Listen, that Matty shot is either going in or hitting the bar, right? And he's out of the equation. It's either going in or hitting the bar. Kosi miffed it, right? Realistically, you know, the saves he made during the run of play, there are a few saves here and there. Like Turts made mention of him cutting that Richie cross that would have been a tap-in.
I think he comes across. There was another one where I believe it was Fede who's trying to cross it, but like also tries as a cross come shot. Like if he goes in, it goes in, and he does well to stand near post and keep that out, right? Like there were some.
He does well.
Some of those.
Does well. Exactly.
Yeah, it wasn't
Not,
making
he's not winning
spectacular
any
diving
accolades,
saves
yeah.
or anything like
Exactly.
that.
Exactly.
But
100%.
but he was making sort of plays that kind of kept Vancouver in the game. And I thought he played well. Again, him getting the George Gross might have
Sure.
been a bit much, but fair enough. They can go ahead and do that. So here's a question for you, just sort of wrapping up this game and sort of our feelings,
Sure.
and then we'll get into Lorenzo. Hold on.
Best question ever.
Oh yeah, sorry. And then maybe this is again one that we may bring up again at the end of the season, whenever the season ends. But is the season now kind of a wash with us kind of knowing now that this team is probably going to end another season without a trophy? Like, they could still make the playoffs, obviously, and make the play-in, and who knows, maybe they make a run, but it feels very unlikely. So is this a wash? Is this season kind of just another wasted
first things
year?
first, is that how you spell trophyless with the like? You
Yeah, I
just
know.
add a
Yeah, I
LES?
did.
Is that because it looks so weird on the page? Like, do you?
Hey,
is
that's
there
not what the autocorrect said. I tried to find it.
I don't doubt it, but it looks so strange on the page.
I don't disagree.
Yeah,
I don't disagree.
Is trophyless even a word? Is it without trophy? Is that why it looks so weird on the without any trophies? Like, do you have to go?
I don't know. We could have maybe done a hyphen.
Is it a wash? No. Because, hey, let's bring out my favorite Matty Doyle quote from the beginning of the season. Put that panic button in the closet and close the closet and walk away. If we were realistic when we said, hey, that's a great idea, then it can't be a wash, right? We've had our ups and downs. We've had our orange slices and huddles at halftime. We've had our Bernadeschi slowly becoming Toronto mans, and then apparently getting his cornrows and dreads out, and whoever his stylist is amazing. So is it a wash? No, it isn't. I mean, if anything, it's a better season than I thought. But I'll qualify that with an asterisk. It's a wash if we don't stop getting in our own damn way. There's only so much crap. And I'm not going to say 5 years without playoffs, because this version of TFC is a year and a half old, 2 years old, right? But we've seen enough from this version of TFC that if we're just going to polish deck chairs on the Titanic again, and I don't think we have any choice, because we'll get into that later, then it's a wash. We're predictable on the pitch, and we're predictable off the pitch. And that is a recipe for disaster. The predictability off the pitch is that we all know that we're hampered by albatross contracts. We all know this and that and this. But this faith, I have zero, let's get a striker. Who cares? Let's get 20 strikers. Our team is still dysfunctional for reasons. And until we address those reasons, we're circling the drain here. And so it's a wash if we don't take the hard lessons that we learned from this season and apply it to next, and do what needs to be done. Whether that's eating massive amounts of money. I mean, this is MLSE. Let's eat that cash, right? Do what needs to be done. It's a wash if we don't course correct. And that's my asterisk on this. I'm happy to see this season play out the way it did.
Fair. So let's talk about maybe one of those pieces that you talked about there.
And I mean, the chat is in no uncertain words sort of agreeing with that sentiment, right? Like, good rebuilding season. We need to be much better next year. We got 8 guys whose contracts are expiring. We're definitely going to have a different look next year. But the butt is screaming. That butt is screaming from.
Well, let's talk about that
right?
butt.
Like,
one of those butts at least.
Yeah.
And it's the picture that is behind us right now as our background. If you're watching on video right now, it is a picture taken
Carrie Nichols
by Carrie Ryan. Yeah.
Carrie Ryan. Sorry.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, and it's Lorenzo.
Yeah. Basically, you can't see it because I'm technically blocking, because even in this format, I'm taller than Lorenzo Insigne. But basically, what you're seeing is the entire TFC bench, arm in arm, and off the distance, like Ashley Cole in a team photo, is like way out, like here. Like, basically, he's like here, and the rest of the team's like where they are. So, I mean, look, it could have been a moment right? It could have been a moment where just in that he might have been walking away from somewhere and coming back, and right, because
It doesn't look like
if
one.
you because look, if you watch the the television broadcast, he eventually is arm in arm with Robin Gale, I believe. Right. Something going on in your, you all right, man? Like you're looking up like something's coming down off
Oh,
the
no. I'm looking at the picture.
Oh, okay.
It's on my TV up there. Sorry.
Okay.
I opened it up.
But yeah, like, he's arm in arm with Robin Gale during the penalty shootout. So at some point he does rejoin this line here. But a lot of people have made a lot of things about it since this picture has been posted, and I'm cautious about saying something about it because I don't know the context, right? Like this picture could have been taken in a moment.
And
we
Turts
don't know,
Turts is keeping us honest. I mean, Turts, I saved the comment earlier, which I think is hilarious, which is, I know you guys are blinded by hate, but Lorenzo left it all on the pitch last night, which is fair. And just recently, he literally ran his hammy off his leg from effort last night. I take some issue with that. I take some umbrage with that.
Okay.
I don't think he
what do you take umbrage? What specifically?
I don't think he ran his hammy off. I'd love it if he ran his hammy off for this team. But there's always a moment where he thinks of himself first, protecting his legacy, protecting it for next game, protecting it for a move to Syria that's never going to happen, or Saudi Arabia that's never going to happen. He will never leave it all on the pitch for this club. So I think it's dangerous to say that, when he left it's 65% on the pitch for this club, right? That's the maximum we're getting for our investment. Stupid. It's stupid.
Yeah, and I think I said this. If you the Tunnel Club on the weekend, if you go back and watch that or listen to that episode, Sean Nolan and I talk a little bit about this, and I was asked, like, definitely, like, what do we do with Lorenzo? And I'm like, you buy him out. And I think at this point the thing is my question is, what does he bring to this team right now? I'm not talking about thinking about his prior life in Napoli and the Italian national team. That is all your yesterdays, and those are very valid. Those are great things he's done. Don't get me wrong.
Awesome.
They are.
Can't wait to read the autobiography.
Right, but
the English translation.
We live in the right now, and football is a right now game. What have you done for me lately? And I just don't think that he brings what you need, because he can't play 90 minutes. He can't play enough games for you to be impactful. When he's on the pitch, he clearly isn't up to, like, not a match fit. So he can't necessarily always bring his best. And the question is then, what value really on pitch, even off? I argue that I don't think he's been as
Jacob Schaffelberg, strangely enough, if you like irony, sells more jerseys than he does.
There's a asterisk around that. There's the way that those jersey things are counted. They don't count like TFC sales at like Real Sports and stuff like that. So, but I mean, like, look, he's not going to break the top 10. Put it that way.
Yeah.
So, I question what he brings to Toronto FC on the pitch. That is such a difference that you're okay paying him the amount you're paying him to do what he does. When he, like you said, he gives you 65%. I actually think he does give you effort for that 65%, but he just can't. He's not going to be a world beater. He's not going to be a guy who can take a game by the scruff of the neck and win you a game by himself. Like,
and I think even at 100% health, which I don't think is possible anymore. I think here's the Luis Reyes. His legs are mangled. I truly think this is the best he can offer at this point in his career. I think even if you turn back the clock and brought in a fully healthy, whatever that means, Lorenzo Insigne, it's still not the right player for this team in this league as a DP. So
sorry, you started this comment, so I want to just reply to this just from Turts.
Oh,
right?
Sure.
Yeah, just, that is correct, but I don't think keeping him is a sustainable way to build a winner.
It's terrible logic. It's a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush kind of horseshit. And we've seen we're better with him on the pitch, but we still lost, right? I mean, that's the equation. We're better with him on the pitch, but we're still not making the playoffs. We're better with him on the pitch. This becomes a game of zeros. We're multiplying zeros here. So what if we're better than that when we're still not very good, right? Like, who cares?
Oh, yeah, to me, it's just...
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, it's just I don't think you can go. I don't think you can go. This team can go where it wants to go with Lorenzo Insigne on the field,
without
getting
question.
getting paid what he's getting paid. Like, it's just I know the salary cap. I know it only counts to so much and blah blah blah. But those spots are valuable. You cannot waste those spots on guys who don't perform. Like, you just can't. Whether they're hurt.
Can't.
And I get it. Like, he's hurt. He's legitimately hurt. Like, it's clear he's legitimately hurt. But you can't waste those spots. You really can't. You have to get them right. It is so critical to get DP spots right. Teams tank seasons, multiple seasons, because they don't get DPs right. And if you don't get these spots right, it can cripple you for longer than you think it will. And I just don't think right now he is the way that you can go to kind of build the kind of team that you want.
I'm willing to start talking about off the pitch, the Louis Vuitton bags, the fact that he doesn't do press conferences, the fact that, hey, listen, learning a new language is hard. Berna's been able to do it. Insigne hasn't. Let's not rake him over the coals for that. But all of these things together, all of them together, sort of snowball into a totally untenable position. And I've said it before and I will say it again. There is no way in hell that the disparity between what he makes and his performance on the field and his attitude on and off the field doesn't affect the rest of the locker room. There's no way in hell. I'm sorry. We're human beings. There is no way in hell. This is a terrible situation. And listen, here, Terts, I'm gonna bring up again, and we're really not harping on you, raising some interesting points. We all know he's not worth the amount he can get paid. We all know we're stuck with him. Why are you hating on a player when he's trying his best when your issue is with management? Because somebody has to stop the insanity, right? And I said this a couple weeks ago. I think it was the Rachel episode. If you're in a job that you hate and it's making it is having an effect on your legacy, this will have an effect on the legacy of Lorenzo Insigne. His time in Toronto will be a dark patch on his legacy, whether he likes it or not. Somebody somewhere has to be the smart person, right? Now, I said in a tweet today, I would do the same thing he's doing, right? If I see the end of my career coming sooner rather than later, and I've got a guaranteed contract for all this money, I don't care what Toronto Till I Die, Jeff and Mike are slagging about. I don't care what the Footy Prime people are saying. I don't care the looks I'm getting from my teammates in the locker room. I don't care, because I want that money, because 33 may be old for soccer, but it ain't old for life. And I want that effing money. I want what's coming to me, right? So I'm not going to fault him for being steadfast on this. We're the idiots that did this and didn't have an exit strategy or performance clauses or any of that thing. We bet the farm on this guy. But at the end of the day, I am going to slag on him because that's such a cynical thing to do. It's so cynical. And if you're going to be that selfish is the wrong word, but I can't think of the other one. But if you're going to be that one dimensional I'll just use selfish. You deserve ire, and I'm gonna, what I say doesn't matter, but I'm gonna give it that way. So there it is, right?
Yeah, I don't. Again, him personally, I have no issue with him personally. I don't know him, so I'm not personal.
Yeah,
this to me is in a way about management. Like, my personal thing is I'm not slagging him personally. Like, the end of the day, he is a professional. He is trying, but he's clearly hurt. There's clearly a nagging injury that is just going to maybe impact him maybe for the rest of his career, right? Like, it's just going to be something that
there's no other stops after this. This is his career, dude.
Well, maybe he goes somewhere else. I don't know, right? Like, this feels like a Josie situation, right? Where you've got a player
so much
that just, he's got a thing and it will always be there and it will always come up multiple times a season. That's just how it is. And at a certain point, you have to make the decision as a club to say, listen, th- we know you're out there training. We know you're out there trying your best when you are available to us. But this spot is valuable, and you need to be more available. And if you can't be, then
Pay me. Give me my money. That's what I would
no,
say,
agreed.
and that's what he's saying.
But again, that is the nature of the beast, right? And I think TFC have the courage to do it.
They have to sack up.
I don't think they will.
No,
right? Like
and that's not a championship team. Championship teams sack up. When you make a mistake, you own it, you sack up, and you fix it. Because 2 more years in this holding pattern is poison. It's poison. I mean, the team has no relevancy in our home market anymore, other than us sickos. And we'll lose whatever little bit is left, and if that's not worth $10 to $20 million, I don't know what is. I mean, when measured against the value of the team, right? Like we're in scorched earth territory now. It's an all or nothing proposition. It is a very simple equation. He's not leaving unless you pay him off, and so either you do it now, or you do it later, or you don't do it and you eat the shit that you deserve, which is what we're experiencing right now. So TFC needs to sack up. It's that simple, because he ain't going anywhere, and there are no suitors that are going to take him unless we eat as much shit as we would eat with a buyout. So it's just, it's not working. It's not gonna work. I mean, do you trust our medical staff to perform miracles to get Lorenzo back to 100%? I effing don't. We're circling the drain here, and that's priority 1. Priority 1 through 10, I would argue. I don't really have an opinion on whether it has to be Berna and Lorenzo. Because I have tunnel vision for Lorenzo right now, and I have massive respect for Berna, and I actually think you could maybe build a team around this version of Bernadeschi. Maybe not, but
he's a piece. Like he should be a piece to this, not the thing. And I think that's something that this team's going to have to think about addressing in the off season. But we'll talk about that as we get closer to it. Trust me, this ain't going anywhere. And there will be a lot of time to.
I rambled. What's your final opinion on Lorenzo, or did you say it already?
I'll reiterate what I said on the Tunnel Club, which I think you buy him out. Like, I just think there's a point where you buy it out and you kind of just let this go, because you're now at a point, I think, where, look, he's still a good player, but if he can't be fit for you for, he's 40% of the games, maybe more, then this league, is it the best league in the world? No. Is it the most talented league in the world? No. But you have these spots, and I can't reiterate this enough. You cannot waste these spots on players who don't perform. You just can't.
Do you think TFC is smart enough to go the 2 DP, $2 million Garber bucks?
Well, that's where they want to go. That's 100% where they want to go.
Get a bunch of young talent and bench Lorenzo until 2026. He still carries the DP
you
tag.
You can't go the 2 DP route and bench him. You gotta get rid of him. That's the only way. Or, I mean, maybe you keep him and then you get Richie off DP money and go that route. I don't think that's the wisest way to go.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you don't buy him out. You use the money that you would use to buy him out for transfer fees and all that other stuff. You get the 2 million Garber bucks back, right? So you have some freedom there, and he just rides the pine until 2026.
He's not
comes on as a super sub.
You can't pay him that much and ride the pine. You just can't. You can't.
I mean,
they put too much. Like you said, they bet the farm on him. They can't put him out to pasture like that. Like, if you're gonna put him out the pasture, it's shotgun time. Like, that's what it is. Like, it's
I mean, Church is saying Richie is it's a guarantee that Richie's not a DP next year. And so Church makes a point. Like, instead of buying Lorenzo out, you let him stew in his own juices, right? Maybe that's the nuclear option.
But you kind of said to yourself, again, we're not in the locker room, so we don't know for sure. But you've heard things, I've heard things, right? Like, vibes aren't all great, right? Like, and
who cares how many Louis Vuitton bags he brings if he's not dressed for the game? He's up in the box. Who cares? He can live in Louis Vuitton. He can wear a Louis Vuitton hazmat suit.
I just think there are right now more effective players that you can get at that spot than
I don't disagree, but I think either you take that massive cash hit and the sort of the public relations nightmare in tandem. Although I would argue that we're already in a public relations nightmare, so you're not really losing anything. Or you do some creative thinking, and I do think there's some merit to Tertz's kind of chaos theory, which is use that money to get your young players and let Lorenzo fester in his own bullshit.
That is probably the route that TFC go, realistically, because I don't think they're going to buy him out. Like that's just what that's just my thoughts, but I don't think they will buy him out.
It's tough. It's tough to.
It would be tough. It would. No, I'm not saying it wouldn't be. Like it would.
Yeah.
It would be a lot of money. You gotta eat. But to me, it's just there are players that are going to be less known but more effective for you than Lorenzo Insigne at the moment. That's just
Absolutely.
what it is at the moment. And again, it's not. I can't really slag the player, though I can a little bit. But like it's just the situation that our former president painted us in.
Yep. 100%.
You got some herds of words, yeah?
I do. Yeah, let's roll them. I was gonna say let's skip them because they're like 4 minutes.
Oh, we'll play one, at least one.
We'll roll them. Okay, then I'll play the last one.
I thought we had a lot of control. In a place that's tough to get control, I thought we had a lot of control. Probably had about a 15-minute period in the second half where I thought the Caps built a bit of momentum. But outside of that, it felt comfortable. We're just not clinical at the moment. It's been a couple of games now where we've been right there knocking on the door, but just haven't been able to find that killer moment, or we've found a keeper that's standing on his head. So that's the story of TFC at the moment. But we get up tomorrow. We've got a game in 2 days. We're in the playoff hunt. And as I said in the dressing room, all I asked is that the team showed up tonight. They really showed up in this moment. I thought they did. They have to show up again on Saturday. That's the next task. They've got till 12 o'clock midnight tonight to suffer, and then we're on to next things. Chicago. We've had good performances, but for 55, 60 minutes in games, particularly at home, we've been able to control games. We've been able to put teams, Columbus 2 weeks ago, just not being able to finish in the first half with key moments. And what we asked for tonight was a 90-minute performance, to really show up right till that final whistle. And that's what we've got to put together. There's no doubt in my mind this team have got the quality. When we're ticking and guys are fully dialed in, locked in, we're a very good football team. We've shown that. But we haven't been able to put that together consistently enough, game to game or for 90 minutes. And tonight, I think, is just a good foundation to carry into Chicago. But we've got to look at these gaps, which is the finishing and taking our moments.
Yeah. I don't think he's necessarily wrong with a lot of what he said. But, look, at the end of the day, a lot of what we talked about in the first half, he reiterates, right? Like, they were comfortable, but they just don't have it,
You know what gives me hives and stops my heart, sets my heart aflutter, is when he says, we've proven that we're a good team when all the pieces are humming. I don't think he believes that. Now, we need to preface this with how much are you really going to get out of a post-game press conference, which is the good question of the day, right? Yeah. It's almost always bullshit and motivational quotes and oversimplification. It's like, we lost. Why'd you lose? Well, we didn't score as many goals as they did. Cool. Conference over, right? Like, you're not going to get the kind of insight that you really want, and it's left to speculation, and that's what we're doing here. But this idea that, if only TFC could finish, if only this, then that, it's an oversimplification, and I don't like the language of, I don't think this team was ever a world beater. They were surprising at the beginning of the season. We knew it was unsustainable. If he thinks that we are that close to a fully formed diamond, then we got bigger problems than we were talking about today. And that's why I brought the clip up. I forgot to roll the herd word intro, which is probably good since you won't have surfing birds stuck in your craw for the next week. But that's why I brought it up. I thought it was a a terrible postmortem, if I'm being honest. I mean, it's not as bad as this is the worst experience I've had coaching in the history of all time, but some of it's sounding a lot really rote and rehearsed and not at all sincere, and I don't like it.
Yeah, look, I think you always, like you said, you're trying to get messages out to certain players, and you're trying to get messages out to the team, and you're also trying to try to find silver linings for the fan base who are probably, realistically probably want to roast you a little bit for losing another cup final. But again, like I know, is this team fully baked? No, not even close. But
not even close.
But are they better mentality wise? Yes, but I mean, you're coming from such a low place that is that really that big, right? Like that's the thing. But I mean, look, I think he did nail it. Like they got no finish. They like if anybody here follows the NBA, Pat Beverly. And sometimes you like Pat Beverly, and sometimes he says some wild shit that just you're like, what are you talking about? But he said something about the Raptors that I actually would apply to TFC, which is like nice players, no dogs, right? Like you got no dog in your team. You got no guy. Like Davies kind of close, but like you got no dog in your team that's just like, you know what, fuck it, we're gonna win, right? I'm going to make this happen. I am going to make this happen. Berdesky is close as well. Like those are probably the two players. But he can't do it by himself. But he can't do it by himself, and that's the thing. You need more dogs.
Could, and this gets to the point, like, how different is MLS from 2015? Because Seba could, Seba could say, I'm going to take this game by the scruff of its neck. I don't care about the other 10 players on the field. I'm going to win it for TFC, right? I don't think it's fair to say that, Burn is not as good as Seba, because that ignores that the league has evolved. It has evolved. But yeah, like, we don't have finish. And I hate how binary and basic and simplified that is. But where there's smoke, there's fire, and it's true. We cannot finish. It's like this team is cursed. So that part I agree with. I do think that that's something we have to solve yesterday.
Yeah. And before we sort of wrap up here and just really quickly just set Saturday, Turks is saying that you just can't, it's not possible anymore for one player to take over games and win it. I would counter with Denny Bouanga. That's a guy that's literally a guy who
I think it still is. And there's a really interesting article in The Guardian with Olivier Giroux. And he's talking about the differences and what, the usual. I've been very impressed with MLS and the physicality of the league and whatever. There's one paragraph in that article where he's talking about a conversation he had with Zlatan, Zlatan basically said, you're gonna really enjoy MLS because tactically it's all about scoring. You don't have teams that set up to sort of absorb pressure. It's basically run, score, go. There's like a certain caveman simplicity that's still part of MLS overall, that rewards that kind of dogged pursuit of the goal, as opposed to the more nuanced tactics that you would argue are in the big 5 leagues and in more advanced leagues in Europe. And so that does lend itself to those individual performances, those moments of brilliance and magic. And like you said, Denny Bouanga, I would even say Messi, in certain occasions can put a game on his back in this league. I would say Cucho. We saw Cucho do it.
Yeah, Cucho.
We like
Wacky 100% with the Galaxy can do that too.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Church is right. Like, Bouanga isn't doing Seba things, taking out the New York Red Bulls, as a one-man wrecking crew ain't happening very often. But
I don't know, man. Ask the Seattle Sounders, though. I mean, Seattle Sounders would love to see the back of Denny Bouanga anytime they play him. He just shreds them. Absolutely shreds them.
Yeah.
All right, let's set up Saturday really quick.
Okay.
Easy way to set it up. TFC right now.
This is a trap game.
Points. It is a trap game. It is a 6-pointer kind of. I mean, Chicago are pretty much out of it at this point. But TFC on 36 points. They're in 8th. They are tied with Philadelphia on points, but are above Philadelphia in the standings because they have more wins.
And they've already cleaned our clocks this year in another trap game. So
yes, correct. Montreal are only 2 points behind us right now, sitting in 10th. All these teams have a game in hand on us, except Chicago, funny enough. So look, this is an away game. TFC have not done well away at Chicago in quite some time. So from that perspective, we don't have to say hyperbole, big game. We know it. They got to win it. Mm-hmm. It's as simple as that, right? This is a team that should be theoretically, they're on 29 points. They should be out of it.
The last time we faced off against Chicago and they murdered us.
But you gotta win this one. It's just it. If they don't win this one, I don't know if you make the run. I just don't think so. Your last
I don't think we make the run anyway. And one last thing, Louis Reyes off the back of the Olivier Giroud, and I was going to mention this. They interviewed his teammates at LAFC, and unilaterally they were saying, "We can't believe how well he treats his body," which made me so mad because that suggests such a problem in MLS, right? If the roster, because it should be standard that a professional soccer player, your body is a temple in the same way as
Olivier Giroud's been a multi-millionaire in football for years, and some of these guys are making like $80,000.
Do you think it? Okay, but do you think it? Where was his last stop? I want to say AC Milan. Yeah. So do you think that his teammates at AC Milan, even down to like the scrubs, were like, I can't believe how healthy he is.
Well,
and his body's a temple. I think that says.
Yeah, not to make this like a long debate, but like, I mean, Millonero, which is their training ground, is like world renowned as a football health like clinic. That is able,
but it's still Serie A where they're all smoking darts in between training sessions, right? Like
no, okay, like look, when you're a multi-millionaire footballer, you can spend money to take care of your body, eat right, have chefs, stuff like that. There are some MLS players that can do that. There are some MLS players that cannot afford to do that and have to do it on their own. And it's not that they're not taking care of their bodies. They are taking care of their bodies. I think they mean it in the context of this guy's what, 30 is Giroud's what, 38?
38. Okay, that's fair. I'll give you that. I read it as they're like, oh my God, he's a professional soccer player and we're not. And that's the state of the league in 2024, then I have problems.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to send you the article and you'll read it. And I want to see if you still feel that way. And we'll
fair enough.
That next
week.
Week.
All right. Let's wrap it up there. Thank you everybody for tuning into another Toronto Till I Die lively show. I love the comments, love the debate. We've grown a little bit of a community here. Thank you guys for tuning in every week. You sickos, we love you. Follow us on all these social media platforms. Just search Toronto Till I Die. You know how to find us. Spread the word. Tell a friend that we're doing this every week. We're doing the Lord's work by talking about this dysfunctional football club that we love. If you're on YouTube, do us a big favor, subscribe if you haven't already. It actually is doing us a really massive favor. And then of course, if you're listening on podcast, watch us on video and then listen to us on podcast and give us a 5-star review and leave us your thoughts on the podcast. Okay. For Jeffrey P. Nestor,
send me candy. Yeah.
Send him candy. I'm Mike Newell. We'll see you next week. Peace, everybody.
Cheers.
And wait, and baby, I'm TFC till I die.